Good morning. I'm Julie Pinsino, and I'm happy to serve this congregation as a member of your Board of Trustees. I am a short, middle-aged to old woman with, this is really hard because I have to do this on the spot. I have brown hair, blue eyes, and I wear glasses. I could stand to lose a little weight. That's all I'm going to say about that. Thank you for joining us both in person and online. And please scan the QR code on the screen, which is up there, and to let us know that you are here. Get a digital version of our order of service and find our donation page. If you're visiting with us this morning, welcome. We have a first-time visitor gift for you at the greeters table, and one of our beloved volunteers will be available up here at the front of the worship center by the candle table, which is right there, to share our getting to know you information. And please take a moment to silence your cell phones, and whether this is your first visit or your 500th, we welcome you to come chat with us after the service to learn more about who we are and what we believe here at First UU. Please find me or another member of the board in Beach Hall after the service to chat about all things church. And we have a few announcements this morning. The Anti-Racist Allies invites anyone who loves good food and fellowship to meet in the foyer after today's service for carpool to lunch to Modern Southern Table, a Black-owned restaurant operating out of Bud Dairy Food Hall with vegetarian options available. And did you miss signing up for a covenant group but would still like to try one out? Join us for our drop-in group today at 11:30 after the service in Slaughter Lounge, which is back there. We will be discussing centering in our gifts. Hope to see you there. And throughout Beach Hall, you'll notice little conversation starter sticks. They give you a way to start a conversation with someone you may not know. Try it out. And now, please rise in body or spirit to sing our opening hymn, Come and Go With Me, verses 1 and 3 in the Teal hymnal.
To that land, come and go with me to that land, come and go with me to that land, where I'm bound, come and go with me to that land, come and go with me to that land, come and go with me to that land, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land, there'll be justice in that land, there'll be justice in that land, where I'm bound, there'll be justice in that land, there'll be justice in that land, there'll be justice in that land, where I'm bound.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Alice Rathburn. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been one of your bread team members since the beginning, 1996. I am an older, but like Biden, not old, 5'3" Caucasian woman with short brown hair and sometimes glasses. That's why I had to leave to get them. All of us are wearing our Gold Side of Love t-shirts, as we do for all bread events. Now, welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Columbus. We begin this service by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, and Cayuga people. We cultivate this awareness that concrete acts of solidarity, healing, and reparation accompany our symbolic acknowledgments.
Good morning. I'm Amanda Hayes. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as your justice minister. I'm a white woman in my mid-30s with short, spiky brown hair and glasses. We're beginning to see the first signs that our earth is preparing to transform. The crocuses and the snowdrops, daffodils and budding trees and bushes. Who here is excited for spring? Woo! Our service this morning will be deeply reflecting on the perseverance it takes to pursue the transformations we long to see in the world. Transformations like valuing and protecting our trees. Transformations like schools that welcome and support every child. Transformations like holistic community support for people living with mental illness. Transformations like affordable housing for everyone. These are all transformations that we've been persevering in pursuing for years through BREAD. BREAD stands for Building Responsibility, Equality, and Dignity, and BREAD is a congregation-based community organization. First UU is a founding member of BREAD and united with over 40 other congregations from many different religious groups. We research proven solutions and apply nonpartisan pressure on local decision makers year after year to pursue the transformation we long to see. Before we get started with our service, I'd like to practice our BREAD chant with you. It goes like this. I say bread, and then you'll say rises. Oh my gosh, you guys are on your toes. Okay, ready? Bread. Rises. Bread. Rises. Bread. Rises. Woohoo! You are ready for the service. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a lovely day to be here with everybody. Welcome. My name is Robin Lawson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of your BREAD team members. I'm a white middle-aged woman with short, wavy red hair. Every year in our BREAD listening process, we share with one another our concerns for our community, while our children meet in the back to prepare to bring in the light. We wanted to take this time to ask you to turn to your neighbor and engage in a short discussion, asking yourself and each other, if you wake up at 3 in the morning, what do you worry about? now time for our children to bring in the lights. We light this chalice in memory of the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who've struggled for justice, and the love of those who've built beloved communities to carry on the light of hope.
Thank you, Juniper, for helping us to light our chalice. Today's story is called Step by Step: How the Lincoln School Marchers Blazed a Trail to Justice, written by Debbie Rigaud and Carlotta Penn and illustrated by Nisha Lilly. This story is written from the point of view of a young Black student activist following the landmark Brown versus Board of Education ruling. When sharing a story like this, ideally we would amplify the voice of a person of color as our reader. As a white person, I cannot claim this story or these experiences as my own, nor can I take credit for these courageous acts of justice. Nevertheless, our BREAD team thought it was important to share this vital piece of untaught Ohio history. Imagine you had to walk 600 miles to get fair treatment at school. When I was 12 years old, I did just that. Together with my friends and our mothers, I marched in Hillsboro, Ohio, so that Black children could get an equal education. We had a fire for fairness burning in our hearts. It shed a light on the path we walked toward justice, and boy, did we walk. I want everyone to know our story, so I kept a memory book of our marching days. Take a look. Unfair school rules. Before we won the school fight, Black kids in our town went to Lincoln School, and white kids went to Webster. Lincoln was a rundown, drafty building with 3 grades crammed together in each room. Our books were old with missing pages. Webster was a newer, nicer, warmer building with a room for each grade and newer school books. But Webster wouldn't accept Black students. That was the Hillsboro School Board's rule, even though segregation was against the law. Hearts on fire. In the summer of 1954, Lincoln School was badly damaged in a fire. The school board tried to send us back to the burnt up school building. So our mothers ignited a plan. I saw my mom in our backyard talking to my friend Eleanor's mother, Mrs. Imogen. "Gertrude, we have to do something." "Yes, we do," Mrs. Imogen said. "Our kids deserve a safe building." And when our moms got together for a big meeting, she announced, "According to the law of the USA, Hillsborough cannot keep Black children in separate, unequal schools." The plan was set. Our moms would march with us to Webster for as long as it took for the principal to let us in. Forward march. January, February, March, March, March. Our group of 37 kids and 19 mothers walked a mile to Webster every single school day for 2 whole years. We met at Mrs. Sally's house and marched in a neat and orderly group, no messing around. We started up East Street along the sidewalk. We blazed a trail past the grocery store and the church house. We walked through the schoolyard and up to the door, where we'd get stopped by a brick wall named Principal Henry. "Sorry, ladies, nothing has changed." Kitchen schools. Did you think that just because Principal Henry wouldn't let us into Webster School, we got to play all day? No way. The mothers were our marching leaders and our teachers. They taught lessons at their kitchen tables with some help from the Quaker teacher, Mrs. Hackney. Step by step, it wasn't easy. Some mornings, the gray skies were so dreary, I wanted to run back inside. Rain clouds hung over our heads as we passed glaring townsfolk. Still, we marched on. We stepped over the box lines on the calendar, across the rows of dates, and down the page until it flipped, and we started from the top again. Courage under fire. Hateful people tried to scare us by burning crosses in our front lawns and spewing wicked words. Some of us kids felt afraid. Other times, we were just plain tired of marching. We wondered, why do we have to march again today when we know we'll be turned away? But then I reminded my friends what Mrs. Imogen said. According to the law of the USA, Hillsborough cannot keep Black children in separate, unequal schools. Our mothers took firm footsteps forward. They declared, "You can burn the cross to try to scare us, but we will keep on marching." The fire on that cross was no match for the light in our hearts. Best foot forward. The mothers called attorney Constance Baker Motley to town. We sued the school board with help from Mrs. Motley. Mrs. Motley said the judges must follow our country's rules and make our town do the right thing. Since I was one of the oldest marchers, they chose me to speak up for the students in the lawsuit. I was so nervous, but I was proud to use my voice to help spark change. One day, the judge said our parents would go to jail if they didn't send us kids back to Lincoln School immediately. My mom told him, "I tell you what, you let me go home and finish my ironing, then you can put me in jail." Mom didn't go to jail, and we didn't stop marching. We kept going. A bright day. Then finally, the judge decided we were right. Webster would have to let Black students enroll immediately. We did it! When she got the good news, Mom smiled bright like the noonday sun. Victory March. On our first school day as Webster students, we met at Mrs. Sally's house with our hearts on fire, and we set out on our usual path. But instead of being turned away at the school door, brick wall Principal Henry let us in. We marched past unfamiliar faces and wondering whispers. We stepped into our classrooms and took our seats where we belonged. There were challenges at Webster, sure. Many of the kids were kind, but others never even said hello, and sometimes teachers were unfair. But we marched through each challenge step by step. We were proud of our persistence. Daddy always said, "Give 100%. If you can give 150, do that." And so we did. Follow in our footsteps. Now you know what it was like to walk a mile, or 600 miles, in our shoes. It's up to you to carry the torch of justice. When you do, think of me, Joyce Clemens, my friends, and our mothers, the Lincoln School Marchers. Remember our fire for fairness and how we blazed a trail to equality. And remember, there's a light inside you too. Let it shine. We will keep on marching. The end. The Lincoln School Marchers were one of the longest sustained demonstrations of the civil rights movement. Publishing Step by Step was a collaboration between the nonprofit Ohio Humanities and Black Lincoln School alumni who resolved to share their story with the world. You can order the book directly from Daydreamers Press or through the local bookstore cover to cover. I now invite you to place your hands over your heart as we sing our young people back to their families and out to class.
Sorry. Good morning. I'm Chris Johnson. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm also one of your Bread team members. I still use he, him pronouns. Okay. I'm a white, bald, 40-something wearing a yellow Side with Love shirt, and in 2013, Bread voted to work on mental health care. We had heard stories about how mental health crisis care was overwhelmed. That's why we successfully campaigned for more investment in community mental health care programs to keep people out of crisis care. One of those programs was this month's Share the Plate partner, Pathway Clubhouse. I'm pleased to introduce Teresa Conley and Shireen Mehta from Pathway.
Hi, my name's Shireen Mehta. I've spoken here before, and I've always talked about what Pathway is, but not what having a mental illness to me has done. I don't think I've ever known life without it. I didn't know how to have friends. I didn't know how to do a lot of things that most of the kids do know because I was so ostracized. And depression and anxiety have always been there. And feeling different became the norm for me, and I know a lot of other people who that's happened as well. And to feel the norm where you're not feeling like you belong isn't a good feeling. But there's some place here in Columbus that we can go, and that's Pathway Clubhouse. It's open up to any adults 18 or over, and you can help with jobs, getting a feeling of purpose, a feeling of meaning. It's done so much for me with my life, and it's turned it around from someone who would never speak to anybody to someone who will go up and talk at an international conference. And there's so much, my heart just brims with Pathway. I'm just so full with love for
It does. It transforms lives. And just on behalf of Pathway, I'd like to thank Chris for inviting us, and also thank you for your wonderful, beautiful support, and the Bread organization. It's like, it really has. We've helped a lot of people, and it's just it's a wonderful, safe haven, and I invite you all to visit too. You're welcome to come have a tour. We actually have pets. We have a library. We provide lunches. It's just a good place for people to really actually feel safe and work on getting better. Thank you.
Please use the QR code on the order of service, text the number on the screen, or go to our website, firstucolumbus.org, and click the Donate tab to share as you feel called. Your gifts help build a better church and a better world. Thank you. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you. We have both joys and sorrows in our community to share this morning. First, our joys. Happy birthday to Barb Avery, who celebrated her 87th birthday on Monday, February 26th. And we're celebrating with Rick Kreitzer, who has moved to Westerwood Retirement Community, joining the First UU family there. And also, we have these sorrows. Lindsay Walker, a friend of Kristen Harrer and a member of UU Fellowship of Wayne County, is requesting prayers for Ezra Schwarzentruber, who sustained multiple injuries in a car accident. Ezra is home from the hospital and improving. There will be an event in March in Worcester to financially assist the family. We also send our deep sympathies to the staff and the congregation of First Religious Society UU Church in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Reverend Helen Sampson Murgida, an interfaith chaplain and affiliated minister, was the leader of the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry at First Religious Society. Sadly, she died after being struck by a truck crossing the street. Rev Helen had left the church and was on her way to City Hall to offer opening prayers at City Hall. She will be greatly missed by First Religious Society members, many peers, and many friends, including our First UU former member, Lee Pearson. We hold both joys and sorrows, those spoken and those unspoken, gently in our hearts, together as this community. I invite you to join me in meditation, prayer, or contemplation with these words from Lynn Cox. A web of holy relationships. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships. Make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit manifest in human hands and voices. And remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with rhythms of peace. May we move with rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice, source of stars and planets and water and land. Open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it, blessed be, amen. And now let our temple bell invite you into silence.
Good morning. So I'm Noelle Williams, and some of you may not know who I am. When I attend in person, I sit back there. But usually I'm online, so I just wanted to give that brief update. My pronouns are her and she, and I am one of your BREAD team members. A visual of me, I'm a caramel-colored African-American woman, gorgeous bald head. Right? Thank you so much. In the Time for All Ages, we heard the story of the fight to desegregate the schools in Hillsborough, Ohio. There's a short documentary on the same subject, The Lincoln School Story. It's well worth watching in full. In this clip, the mothers and children who marched every day reflect on their experiences. The URL is, oh, okay, great. I was wondering.
The
if it was
kids,
gonna come up.
they look back and say, well, Mom, y'all didn't have it so easy. And we said, we know that, but the fight was worth it.
I feel enormous pride about what we did, enormous pride in my mother for standing up the way she did.
I am very proud of what she did. It's one thing to believe in something, but to follow what you believe is most important.
Well, I would like the younger children to know that the march was to give them a better life.
Well, I done the best I could because I wanted my children to get an education. I wanted them to prosper in life.
I was proud of my mom. I thought my mom was superwoman.
Every student, adult, young person throughout Ohio and the country should know about this story because the women saw something that was wrong in Hillsborough, Ohio, and they took action against it. And importantly, they understood that it took time to make change, and they stayed consistent and they marched every day to get the change that they needed.
I think what we can learn from what these mothers did to fight for desegregation and the children that marched alongside them is the fact that perseverance, hard work, determination, resistance in the face of struggle, in the face of hatred, in the face of fear, is the key to making this country live up to its democratic promise.
Everybody in your family is so proud that you are our mother and that you fought for all of us and the whole community with the rest of the parents.
Yes.
So yes, we are very proud of you and we love you so much for it.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's a very short video, but you can watch it in full. The URL is in your order of service. Oh, it's not? Oh, okay. Well, it says it here.
It's in the live stream and you can get it at the jam table.
Okay, it's at the jam table. So please stay seated for our meditative hymn, Step by Step, the Longest March, number 157, found on the screen or in your gray hymnal.
turn our mill, singling on, singling on.
Every year, Bread holds a retreat on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Clergy and team members from Bread congregations all over Central Ohio gather to reflect on the civil rights movement and the lessons it has for our own justice work. This year's theme was the role of women in the civil rights movement. We were deeply moved by watching the Lincoln School story. Those mothers and kids who marched every day for 2 years for racial integration are an inspiration. They persevered in their fight, and in the end, they won. I've learned a lot about perseverance through working with Bread. I could illustrate this with a number of issues, say juvenile justice or preventing gun violence. But today we're going to tell you the story of Bread's long fight for affordable housing. Housing is basic. You have to live somewhere. When you don't have access to safe, stable housing, everything else in life becomes infinitely harder. And we know that's true for a lot of us and our neighbors. Over 50,000 low-income families in Central Ohio spend 50% or more of their income on housing, and that's a pre-pandemic number. We've heard innumerable housing stories from folks here and in other Bread congregations, people who have to live with their parents or their children, people who've had to move due to rent increases, people on long waiting lists for housing, people living in their cars. We'd like to ask you now, stand or raise your hand as you're able, and keep it up if you have ever struggled to afford housing. Please remain standing or keep your hands up. If you have a loved one who has ever struggled to afford housing, please stand or raise your hands. And lastly, if someone you know struggles or has struggled to afford housing. Wow, that's pretty much all of us. You may be seated and put your hands down. Anyone who's lucky enough not to struggle with housing themselves knows and cares about someone who does. And we know the Columbus housing market is only getting more challenging.
There is, of course, so much more to do. In 2 pages instead of 1. Oh. Bread first began working on affordable housing in 1997, shortly after our church helped found Bread. After much research, Bread developed the Jubilee Housing Plan in 1999. It included an affordable housing trust fund, a proven model for funding the creation of affordable housing. Bread challenged the mayoral candidates in the 1999 election to support this plan. Both candidates did so, and Michael Coleman won in November. Mayor Coleman did meet with Bread after the election, but the relationship soon grew tense. Coleman publicly announced a plan to establish a $20 million fund. Bread pressed for a larger investment, but he refused to make any additional commitment. The mayor also created a housing task force. Bread did have a representative on that task force. However, it quickly became apparent that the task force was focused on housing for middle-income people and had little interest in the needs of lower-income people and families. The final task force report in 2000 did not include any language about targeting trust fund resources. Brad asked Mayor Coleman to commit to having at least half of the trust fund's money support families at or below 50% of the area median income. The mayor refused to make any such commitment, and his office pushed back against Brad's criticism. Brad was a bunch of troublemakers. Here the mayor was creating the trust fund they asked for, and Brad still wasn't happy. But we did not give up. Brad members went to city council and asked, affordable for whom? As Brad member Ed Hoffman put it, our message was, you are proposing to create a housing trust fund with no legal requirement that poor people will be served. And we kept highlighting this fundamental, logical inconsistency. Our pressure worked. City Council passed legislation requiring the new trust fund to target half of its funding towards families at or below 60% of the area median income. We also won dedicated ongoing funding for the trust fund from the city's hotel tax. Brad rises. Brad continued to improve the Affordable Housing Trust. In 2001, we won ongoing funding from Franklin County Board of Commissioners, making our housing trust the first in the country to be jointly supported by a city and county. We won additional funding from the county in 2006. Over the last 2 decades, the Affordable Housing Trust has supported hundreds of projects, creating thousands of units of housing for thousands of families. Brad rises.
There is, of course, so much more to do. In 2018, Brad began our Families First and Housing Now campaign. From January through May of 2019, our housing committee members attended every meeting of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, sharing stories of the housing crisis and pushing them for new source of dedicated funding for affordable housing. We got a lot of pushback. One of the commissioners even called us bullies. Nevertheless, we persisted. That fall, the commissioners agreed to dedicate approximately $6.5 million in additional funding to affordable housing. We have since learned that this funding has already helped over 2,000 families get and stay in affordable housing. Bread rises. Bread rises. The pandemic brought new housing challenges and new challenges for Bread's organizing. We had to become more flexible. We had driving demonstrations to push for emergency housing relief, new sources of funding like the American Rescue Plan money presented new opportunities. We've been pushing the city and county to use 1/3 of their American Rescue dollars for affordable housing. And we continue to push for that funding. The other week, Brad went to City Council again. While we did not get to speak that night, we did secure a meeting with Council President Shannon Hardin to discuss the American Rescue Plan money. We will, of course, let you know how that goes. Housing is a huge topic. That's why, while our current campaign continues, Brad voted in November of last year to start a new campaign to address other aspects of the rising cost of housing. The new research committee has met with numerous experts and officials already to determine a new focus and possible solution to advocate for. Our own John McChrystal is on the steering committee for the new campaign. They've been looking at escalating rents, renter exploitation, evictions, and scarcity, and poorly administered rental subsidies. We'll have more information on this specific direction of the new campaign in coming weeks.
So Bread is in this for the long haul. How do we persevere? How do we work on hard problems year after year through all the setbacks and frustrations? One thing I've learned working with Bread is the power of grounding our justice work in relationships and community. That's why every Bread cycle begins with the fall listening process, where we get to know each other on a deeper level by sharing problems and worries that keep us up. By learning about each other's struggles and passions, we're able to motivate each other to stay in the fight. Every Bread congregation has a justice ministry network. In Jewish congregations, they're called Rodef networks, from the Hebrew for pursuers of justice. Network members stay engaged in the process throughout the year to stay informed about our campaigns. Network members will be personally inviting everyone in the congregation to attend Bread's Nehemiah Action on Tuesday, May 21st, the big action where we directly ask officials to make commitments. Our numbers that night matter. Thousands of people show up at every Nehemiah Action, year after year, year after year, campaign after campaign. That's how we show officials that we're paying attention and that we're not going away. And that's why they listen to us. We're only able to consistently turn out so many people every year because of our network of engaged people. For the latest outrage of the day, you might be able to post something on social media and get a bunch of people to gather down at the State House. But for campaigns where the fight and the follow-up can take years, and the specifics can be really arcane, like it often is in housing, that takes relationship building and organization to maintain that consistency. If you're interested in learning more about how you can help build relationships in organization, we're having an organizing meeting next Saturday at 10 a.m. right here. And for everyone else, expect invitations in the coming weeks. The power of relationships applies to relationships between congregations as well as between individuals. Bread is made of over 40 congregations from diverse faith traditions. It's a religiously, racially, socioeconomically, and geographically diverse organization. Many of our founding congregations, including this one, had worked together from time to time from issue to issue before. But folks realized back in the 90s that we could more effectively work for justice if we had a deeper, ongoing relationship with one another, and thus Bread was formed. Keeping everyone on the same page isn't always easy. Bread's members are diverse, both between and within congregations. People aren't always going to agree on what problems should be prioritized or what solutions we should push for. I know I've been passionate about some campaigns, a lot of campaigns, and a little less so about others. Bread has made mistakes. We try to learn from them, and we do our best going forward. Interfaith work can be challenging. I know many UUs aren't always comfortable with some of the religious language used at Bread events. We've worked over the years to make that language more inclusive while still being acceptable for the other congregations. It'll never be perfect for everyone, but we do the best we can. And the power and ongoing relationship makes those conversations easier. I choose to continue to work with Bread, as I know that by traveling together we can go further than any individual or any single congregation can go alone. We stay in relationship through problems and disagreements, enduring frustrations together, celebrating our victories together, getting to know each other on a deeper level. What I've said about the power and challenges of Community for Bread applies just as well to First UU itself. I always remind myself that none of us has to be here. We all choose to be here, and we all choose to stay in this community, a group of imperfect people muddling forward together towards a better world. And I think that's beautiful. Bread rises. Please rise in body or in spirit to sing our closing hymn, The Fire of Commitment, verses 2 and 3. The words will be located on the screen and in the teal hymnal.
From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Thing to be muddling forward towards a better world, together with a community set on fire by the commitment to persevere in that muddling for years and years. Just one way that our First UU community will be persevering this week in pursuing transformation is through our Bread organizing meeting. Please join us this Saturday right here and also on Zoom at 10 a.m. to prepare for the Nehemiah Action. And please put the Nehemiah Action on your calendar for Tuesday, May 21st from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Our goal is for our presence at the action to equal or exceed our Sunday morning attendance, and you won't want to miss our First UU choirs who will be singing at the Nehemiah Action this year. And now let us extinguish our chalice together with the bread prayer. The words are on the screen. O God, to those who have hunger, give bread, and to those who have bread, give the hunger for justice.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine